Well, a very, very happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin. Today is September 25th of 2023. And on today's episode, we will be covering primarily week 4 of the NFL, providing you our predictions and what we think or expect to happen here as we are about to be a full month away in the NFL regular season. We would also be breaking down the scenario process for the final weekend of regular season in Major League Baseball. There are still a few teams still urging to find their final spots among the playoff teams, which, by the way, games begin next Tuesday. So we will break that down and more for you guys on today's episode. Wherever you guys are listening from, I want to thank you and welcome you guys in. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and do what we do best, and that is get started with talking about our own channel. If you guys are listening to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you guys get podcasted at, I encourage you guys to stop what you're doing, head on over to our YouTube channel, because not only we promote our podcast on that channel, but we provide a lot of sports gaming content, WWE 2K Universe Mode, MLB franchise season, NFL season, and much more. Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm still doing a little bit of catch up, and that's my fault. I kind of been lacklustering when it comes down to creativity in our WWE 2K Universe mode. There's been some technical difficulties among the inputting the video together and trying to get these matches done. Obviously, I have a couple of big weeks coming up when, with baseball season heading into the postseason, as well as football with the international season beginning this weekend. We just got done through NXT spring break-in. Raw was published, NXT were published. I got all the shorts that I wanted to publish for this week, as well as all of the videos that were from last week that I wanted to publish on our channel. So that's all square away. I got NXT kind of a day behind. I got SmackDown kind of ready to be played. I'm working on main event. So expect SmackDown tomorrow night at 8, main event Saturday at 8. And we are just trying to catch up on our WWE 2K Universe mode. Over in our baseball season, now I got some good news for you guys. I got the season completed. I got the final 2 games already played for the regular season this weekend. I told you guys back on Tuesday, instead of doing a Saturday game as promoted between the Reds and the Brewers, I have a doubleheader action. At 3 o'clock, I got the Astros and Angels and the Dodgers and Mariners, because depending on that outcome may very well determine the division. I also have the wild card week setting game. I got 8, 16, 24 games if I'm trying to get all this done. So I got a very busy weekend ahead of us, because I want to get as much content for you as possible. So please be patient. If I run a day behind, I will get caught up at some point. So look for a lot of content for our for our postseason in baseball. Check the community chat, because I'm not going to create an advertisement video for this because there's a lot of games. But I will, I may get one done while games kind of subside. But I think we'll just have to wait and see on that. So just check the community chat. I'll post the playoff schedule coming up. What we may do is pick an American League and a National League wild card instead, and just focus on that. And then whatever game 3 necessary, definitely play. With that being said, that is our baseball side wise. We have our international series. So we have Thursday Night Football currently being imported right now, then published coming up later this evening as the Seahawks take on the Cardinals. We have the Vikings and Steelers this Sunday at 9:30 in the morning, followed by the Ravens and Chiefs, a Sunday afternoon game, and a Sunday night game between the Packers and the Cowboys, following it up Now, there's two games on Monday Night Football, but we're choosing the Bengals and the Broncos because that's the game that we play as. So we got a busy schedule ahead of us. Can't wait to get all that content out. I ask for your patience. It's only one computer, one console, and a lot of games to be played. Before we kind of talk about baseball and football, I kind of want to just give you a little. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I've had some time to reflect, and I wanted to talk to you guys. Oh, gosh. I wanted to talk to you guys about the WWE wrestling. As a fan, as a supporter of professional wrestling, well, as a podcaster, let me start off with that. As a podcaster, as an analyst, trying to break down and give you my opinions about this product, I do try to not hold a biased opinion. I want to come as a person who can be open-minded and seeing things from different point of views, and that's why I don't necessarily try to bash or, criticize a PLE, a live show, an event, a news break, whatever, because we're all human. WWE has never been perfect. They've never been flawless. There's no company, sports, non-sports, that's been 100% adequate. And so I try to keep an open mind. I try to look at it from 2 point of views. And one of my point of views is a business perspective. As I've talked on this show, over the past few weeks, the WWE is a business. They make decisions. Some of them are going to work. Some of them are going to fail. But they make decisions based off of what's best, what they believe is best for the company. As fans, we can sit here and tell them until they're blue in the face that they're garbage, that they don't know what they're doing, that Monday Night Raw is nothing but a repeat main event, that we're falling flat on SmackDown, that the only reason why we're watching is because John Cena is retiring. But at the end of the day, they're going to do what's best for them. We also got to understand contract negotiations. What are those deals look like, especially in today's new contract realms? We got to understand where finances come from, what storyline and plans for, what goes into what. One of the reasons I love Rey Mysterio. Okay. Born and raised in San Diego myself. He was the David and Goliath story, winning against all odds, right? Coming back from the bottom. You can never present Rey Mysterio as a heel. He was always the face. Respectfully so. But the problem that I run into Rey Mysterio, especially today, for the last 10, 15 years, is that he's not no rookie. He's not in his 20s no more. He took a lot of risk. He took a lot of high-flying maneuvers, which took a toll on his body. And Father Time always wins. And so what I love about Rey Mysterio is that, when he comes out and when you see him on TV, you get bubbly, you get excited, you know he's going to have a high-flying spot. Whether you see it a million times or not, it's a win-win. But why can't you put him into any big storylines? They did earlier. They attempted earlier this year, heading into WrestleMania. They tried to put him in a match with El Grande or Chad Gable, right? El Grande Americano, whatever you want to say. Well, the problem that I had with it is that he got hurt just days before. So he couldn't follow through. What's the problem with AJ Styles? I think similar scenarios. He's been hurt. Father Time is catching up with him. Injuries are prevailing. He's not 25, 26, where he could take high-risk flight moves anymore. So I think WWE proceeds with caution about putting him into storylines. We love to see them. We want to see them around, but we don't see them in a lot of spaces. Matter of fact, they're in the company for different reasons than becoming a star, like a lot of these younger guys are doing. And at some point, Seth Rollins is going to get there. Roman Reigns is kind of making appearances here and there. keep these guys healthy. So, we talk about business perspective. Okay. I do want to just give you my honest opinion, though, when it comes down to, I got to remind myself there's a fan base, and I am a fan at first. And for paying the subscriptions to watch professional wrestling, to going out to these events, I feel like I should also be honest with you guys with how I feel. We talked about WrestlePalooza this past Sunday, and I told you that I think it was a decent, wrestling event for what the WWE typically provides. And WWE is kind of notorious, if you think about it. They've kind of build you up to let you down. WrestlePalooza was a huge buildup. For one, it was WWE and ESPN combining, putting it on one platform for you to enjoy, to expand global entertainment. They try to promote high intel people to come and watch. They had the announcement of WrestleMania 43 going to Saudi Arabia a week prior. They did their due diligence to hype up WrestlePalooza. This ESPN kickoff with Brock, John, AJ Lee's coming back after 10 years, Cody and Drew in the main event. But in my honest opinion, I was let down again, like we typically are. And I'm not blaming the WWE. I don't know their reasons behind what happened, what didn't happen. I came into the event with the expectation of something spectacular to happen. Hey, WWE got me again, right? Because they didn't. They didn't blow my socks off. I wasn't on the edge of the seat. At best, I believe that the best match I wasn't. This even came off of an injury, Jey Uso, and the Usos taking on Bronson Breakker and Bronson Reed. I was very disappointed in WrestlePalooza. I love watching AJ Lee, CM Punk work together, husband and wife. Same thing as Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. I think it was a well thought out match. I think it lasted a little longer than expected. Cody Rhodes. Yeah, by the time I was kind of drained by the time Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre came out, but that's part of maybe my 30-year-old elderly stage where I'm at, where I'm just can't stay up past 10 o'clock. I think the only match that I was really looking forward to is John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Now, the whole build up to that match was John Cena Brock Lesnar interrupting John Cena, attacking him out of nowhere, in a sense, and kind of resparking this feud that was dead for the past 10 years. Now, given Brock's dominated John Cena, and John Cena would probably admit that Brock is one of his toughest opponents in all of professional wrestling throughout his entire career. So when you see Brock Lesnar come back, an obstacle that John could never take advantage of and get over, you thought maybe heading into WrestlePalooza, this would have finally happened. And a matter of fact, everything leading up to this match led towards us to believe that John Cena was going to win. Number of days left in the WWE before he officially retires from in-ring competition. Number of matches left, appearance left. Sure, we're holding on to the 99 PLE wins. And he has a couple of PLEs heading into it, to get his 100th win, and I'm sure he'll probably get it. But it wasn't just a match. It was a squash match. 8 minutes of maybe offensive, maybe 30 seconds that John Cena had. Offensively, John Cena realistically only had 3 attitude adjustments, and everything else was Brock Lesnar. And so my biggest question after this match came to me, well, what did this benefit? You can't tell me, listen, I'm all for John Cena, nonetheless Brock Lesnar being those guys who give back to the company. 100%, I'm supportive of it. But Brock's already established. John's already established. So what does this squash match do for Brock Lesnar? Win or lose, Brock Lesnar could still potentially team up with Paul Heyman. Could team up with Seth Rollins. Could team up with Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed. could still have that feud going on down the road. Win or lose, that still could happen. But I feel like this cuts momentum heading into the final appearances of John Cena when it comes down to his final days in the WWE as an active wrestler. So, with all of this on the table, all of this in perspective, to be honest, I was very disappointed in the outcome of this event. I was, rooting for John Cena. And it's not so much that John Cena won or lost. I feel like that was irrelevant. I mean, I could get over if he lost. But if he would have lost, where was the match? Where was the battle? And where was the story? You see this guy who just never could get over Brock Lesnar, battle his way. Maybe he came inches close, but no cigar. Instead, we saw a squash match, 3 attitude adjustments, followed by 3 F5s, a pin, and that was it. It was almost as if maybe something happened during the match that caused it to turn out that way. I feel like that just put a damper and put a stamp on the entire event. There was no special returns. There was no excitement other than congratulating Stephanie McMahon for being the first person to be inducted into the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame. Which I'm pleased to hear, but we're still months away before that. There's just nothing to gravitate towards the night. I was disappointed and I was let down. That's what WWE does, though. So what do you really honestly expect? Now, I've heard this say, who do we point fingers to? A lot of people like to point fingers to Paul Levesque. A lot of people like to point fingers to Nick Khan, maybe TKO. But honestly, this is what WWE provides. And hopefully, just hopefully, that as we head into Crown Jewel, or is it Crown Jewel? Yeah. As we head into, Survivor Series, that we will get a little bit better performance. But you got to understand, like I said, I understand the concept. I understand the business perspective. I do. I try to keep that open mind. But as a fan, I want to just share with you. I'm upset. I was not pleased. I was not happy. You know what? I'm just this guy on a podcast that maybe gets 5 to 10 listeners per episode that don't mean nothing, that has no say into whatever happens. I'm a nobody. I get that. I accept my position and my role, but it doesn't mean that I don't. I mean, this is why I'm here. I'm here to give you my honest opinion. I don't hate anyone. I don't dislike anyone. I may have a feud with somebody. I may, have a strong opinion about someone. But I think as long as it's good for business, then no harm, no foul. But I was very disappointed in the outcome of what they provided there. Alrighty, let's go ahead and transition into Major League Baseball as the final few games are just, on the horizon. This weekend is the final regular season games of the 2025 year. I want to be honest with you. It's bittersweet. I get it. This always happens to me, but I get excited for baseball as soon as football ends. Matter of fact, probably in January, I'll get excited for baseball. I'm looking into what's happening, the final deals. Once playoffs end, I have nothing from October to December when it comes down to baseball. I don't want to know about the meetings. I don't want to know about the deals. I just try to stay away from it and then kind of recap all of it at the beginning, because it's really about what happens in the final days heading into spring training and into the regular season. It kind of forces me to get burnt out. And, we always take baseball for granted. Well, there's 180 plus games, and, you don't have to get to all of them. I don't even tune in to each and every one. Well, they get to September and you're like, well, where's baseball at? We're in the final midst of it. Well, for a handful of lucky teams, it's not over yet, right? We're finally starting to see some clarifications and some placements in the playoffs. We know as on our final 3-4 games left of the season. We know Toronto has clinched the playoff spot. They're sitting at 90 wins. They're actually tied right now with the Yankees at 90 wins in the AL East. So we're kind of paying attention to that scenario along with the Mariners. Mariners won the division already, which is great, but now they're sitting at 89 wins. Now it's the battle for not just a division win in the AL East, but the best record in the American League, which will give them home field advantage. But it looks like Seattle and right now, Seattle and Toronto kind of hold those two spots. They'll more than likely get buys heading into the weekend. Well, if New York could come through, then New York will sit there and replace Toronto, and they'll have that first week off. Which, trust me, Toronto, New York, you need it. Desperately need it. Wild card looks at the Yankees. Boston's two games up, so they're hopefully to clinch it here by Friday, if not Saturday. Detroit found themselves, as they're battling against the Guardians, they're finding themselves out of the postseason picture, barely holding on, third wild card spot. Okay. Cleveland sits at 86 wins. Detroit sitting at 85 wins. Houston just a game back of the wild card. So right now, if you're tracking divisions, focus of points is Toronto and New York, Cleveland and Detroit. Cleveland and Detroit play their final games against each other today. And Detroit will head over to Boston, who wants to hold down and lock in that wild card spot this weekend. And Cleveland is home to the Rangers, who are knocked out of the postseason. Looking at for today, the Red Sox and Toronto will wrap up their series before Boston comes home to host Detroit. Toronto will remain at home to host the Rays. The Yankees are home to the White Sox, and they'll remain home for Baltimore. So a couple of division games here heading into the final weekend. I'm sure Baltimore, Tampa Bay, hey, they're not in it, but they would love to probably, give some hell to get New York and Toronto in this long stretch. Over in the National League, the standings are pretty much almost wrapped up. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, both clinching their divisions. The Dodgers have clinched the playoff spot, but they're in battle with the Padres, as the Padres are just 2.5 games back, which means this, okay? Dodgers are in Arizona, right? So Padres are off today. The Diamondbacks need to beat the Dodgers, and it'll put the Padres 1.5 games back. Heading into this weekend, the Padres will take on Arizona, which they will probably need to take the series, if not sweep, more than likely. Probably need a sweep, and then the Dodgers need to get swept by the Mariners this weekend. New York Mets currently hold the final wild card spot. The Reds and the Diamondbacks are just 1 game back. Miami are 4. Miami takes on, I don't even have Miami right now. I think they take on the Phillies. The Mets are over in Chicago. The Reds got a late start to today's game. At the time of this recording, I can verify that the Reds are leading in the top of the 8th, 2-1. Now, we talk about the Reds for a moment, because I don't know about you, but they worked their tail ends off last week to get that third and final spot in the wild card. And they have the tiebreaker against the D-backs. They have the tiebreaker against the Mets. All they got to do is have a winning week. They got off to a terrible start. What sucks the most out of this is that you have Brady Singer, you have Hunter Green, and now you have Nick Lodolo. So you have practically, in my opinion, your top 3 starting pitchers going at against a team that are nowhere near the playoffs, but they're hoping to play some spoils here in preventing the Reds to make it in. Okay, now you're telling me, they pitch, I don't know how they pitched well. The Pirates beat the Reds game 1 on Tuesday, 4-2. Pirates beat the Reds game 2 on last night, 4-3 in 11 innings. Hunter Green and Skeens just went at it, right? 7 strikeouts, both went 6 innings. Green allowed 2 runs. I think walked a couple batters also. But back on Tuesday, Singer went 5 an extra inning more than Oviedo, allowed a little bit more hits, gave up a little bit more runs, struck out a little bit less. So Oviedo beat Singer, and now we're holding on to avoid a sweep just to stay alive. First of all, we got to get back around. I'm going to be happy if the Reds could hold on to this win, because that means that we could finally get to 500 baseball, because a win today will give us 81 wins in our record, which is what we're looking for. The next thing is that we want the Cubs to win tonight, and that way we can replace the Mets in the final spot. We also want the Dodgers. I don't care about the Dodgers and the Padres so much. I want the Dodgers to lose or to win so that we can knock Arizona back a game, if you think about it. And then we're kind of heading into this weekend. Now, for Reds fans, this weekend is going to be a big weekend. And it's kind of all situational, right? What is Milwaukee going to do? Is Milwaukee going to try to stop, knowing that they're going to have 5 days to rest, that their series doesn't start until Saturday? Are they pushing to start all their starters and have a normal weekend? Do they push to hold some people back and let the Reds just, hey, let's not give up, but let's kind of play it at ease? What are our game plans for this week? Because, we know we're in the postseason. We know we have the division. We probably have the best record in baseball heading into next week. We'll have home field advantage. Let's play this smart. But we have Little, Abbott, and Singer. Now, throughout the regular season, to be honest with you, I would feel comfortable with any one of them going out there over the weekend against any team and put up a decent performance and give our team a chance to win. But Littell is going to have to step up and perform. This is why we brought him into the organization. Abbott, this is time to step up and show us what you can. And I'm sure Singer will like a bounce back game. Right. So the bottom line is, though, is that we have no room to spell. We gave it all away Tuesday and Wednesday when our losses. It's almost a win out scenario, right? Because New York, the Mets are going over to Miami after this. They're taking on the Marlins. Okay. Look, the Marlins want to be in this too, but they would want the Mets to be out of the playoffs just as much as we want the Mets out of the playoffs. Arizona's in San Diego, and I'm sure San Diego's trying to try to fight until the end to take care of business. And look, the Dodgers are in Seattle. Baseball fans, even if you're not a baseball fan, there's a lot of moving pieces for this weekend as we could find ourselves. I don't want to give you too much hope. I'm sitting on the edge, sitting on my hands, wanting the Reds to pull off a series win. I got to be realistic for you guys for a moment here. Let's talk truth. How bad do we want the Reds to go to the postseason? Let me put it to you in this perspective. We are fighting hard, and I love that. We are battling. What I've noticed, though, is, what does going to the postseason give us? It gives us a clear opportunity to win a World Series. Sure, we may have to go up against the Padres or the Dodgers, which is never fun because we're going to be out there on the West Coast. I don't want to get embarrassed, to be honest. As much as I want the Reds to hold and obtain that final wild card spot, I don't want to have all this go just to get swept by the Dodgers or the Padres. And that's a tall task to go back out to the West Coast, which you've already been twice this month. It's The weather's different, time change. We haven't played well out there. We never play well out on the West Coast. And so, you know, if I could be honest with you, and I know this kind of is deceiving, as much as I want the Reds to win, and I'm anxious to see how this weekend turns out, I don't know. Listen, it's an open game come postseason. Come Tuesday, if the Reds are in, they go to Los Angeles, they go to or San Diego, and they take on one of the teams out here in the wild card opportunity. It would probably be the Dodgers. It's a fair matchup. The Padres have done it. Teams have done it in the past. The Reds could definitely beat the Dodgers on the road, knock them out of the playoffs. It's a best out of three, so it's going to be very quick. But I would love to see the Reds win. But look, my priority is still this: win more than 500 baseball. You've made a contingency the last couple of days. We still have some things to clarify. I don't want us exerting ourselves heading into the final season. So I think my focus point next year, heading into this offseason, how can we staff and how can we build and coach these young players to last a full season? Especially, when you got to win your own division games, you got to win necessary series. For example, Pittsburgh is a easy, anticipated series to win. And we gave up the series. And, like you said, we're sitting on edge over the next few minutes as, the Reds hope to avoid a sweep. But, look, I want the Reds to win. I'm just optical about it. So that is baseball for you. Like I said, we'll get Little Friday, Abbott on Saturday, Singer on Sunday. If we could, it's practically a win out. If we win tonight, Mets could lose. Arizona loses, then we're in good positions. Miami is going to probably be playing their hard baseball as well. So we're looking ahead. All right, let's transition into football. Week 4. I'm kind of, I give you my thoughts on week 3. I was looking at my pick them. I don't know if you guys are following along with the picks here, but I'm following along with the picks. I went 13 for 16 last week. I lost again the Baltimore and Lions game, which I felt could have gone either way. I lost the Cowboys game. Bears, I don't think the Bears are a terrible team, but they're only going to win against teams that are going to give them mistakes. And the Cowboys, if any team could give them mistakes, Cowboys are one of them. Also lost against the Packers. Surely thought that they were going to beat the Browns. And then I lost. That was it. So lost 3, got my week 4 out of here, ready to go. Before we jump into our week 4 predictions, we want to go ahead and talk about our division. Before we talk our division, last week I focused my attention around the 2-0 teams. And I told you the teams who went 3-0 are your serious teams that are that are more than likely going to either run away with the division or they're going to be dominant and be those high anticipated teams of the year. And then the teams that are 2-0 that lose are going to kind of show their true colors and be that average breaking team. We saw teams like Arizona lose last week. The Rams lost. The Bengals obviously lost. See what else here. That's kind of it, right? Packers lost, right? It doesn't mean that they're bad teams, but it kind of shows that the imperfection. And the way I will go about it, it's always good to lose a game. As much as I want a team to go undefeated, I prefer a team to lose a game, to even lose 2 games, one early on, one halfway through, 3/4 of the way of the season. And that way you could kind of get that, hey, let's reset ourselves, let's climb back. it is about the bounce back, right? But for those undefeated teams still here in the NFL, there are 6 of them. And I kind of was thinking about this earlier this week, and I wanted to provide you my rankings among those 6 for the impressiveness and to who I think are just on top of everything. So coming out at number 6, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield works well with the Buccaneers. I think they're kind of that. Uh, they're a team who are not considered to be taken seriously. They're not a dominant team, in my opinion, because of their division and how poor their division is. But Baker Mayfield was able to make a comeback last week, was able to help win the game and move themselves to 3-0. And I think that's worthy enough to note that the Buccaneers are a serious team in the NFC. Yeah, you got the Eagles. Yeah, you got the Packers. The Rams made mistakes, but I still think they're a serious team. And despite the injuries, 49ers are in there. But the Buccaneers are up there in the top, I'm going to say 4 to 5 in the top AFC teams that are going to pose a threat. Their first true test is going to come this Sunday. We'll talk about that here a little bit later. So number 6 is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. I was on that bandwagon. Oh, well, and I'm not going to say bandwagon. I was on the opposite side of things. I threw my hands up, and when I heard this announced, and I was like, you're ridiculous. The Colts aren't going to win a single game this year. I'm not even going to entertain the notion, but I was wrong. Okay. Daniel Jones is probably one of the better things early on this year that has happened to the Indianapolis Colts. They have, over the last 3 weeks, he has given them relevancy in the AFC. And so, I think they are this hidden team, just like the Buccaneers, because how poor their division is. They will not be taken as serious unless they, no matter how far they go undefeated, until maybe week 10 or 12 when it comes down to postseason. But it's clear to me that unless something goes tremendously, horribly wrong, where Daniel Jones gets hurt, or Anthony Richardson has to step in and he can't improve from being benched, I see them kind of holding down the fort comfortably in the AFC South. All right, coming in at number 4, I got the San Francisco 49ers. And I throw my hands up on this one because despite injuries, we're talking about, you have Nick Bosa out for the season, torn ACL. Brock Purdy's banged up. He's playing week by week, right? Johan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, they're kind of also banged up. They're questionable in and out. And they don't have a bye week coming up. And realistically, they can't let the gas off the momentum because the Cardinals just got done being 2-0. The Seahawks are 2-1. Cardinals are 2-1. The Rams are 2-1. And one loss can change and shift the entire dynamic of the NFC West. But they're finding a way to get it done. They're finding a way to win. And so, they're exciting to watch. And, they want to stay in that picture, in that hunt. They don't want to, hey, last year maybe it was a fluke. We're right there with the big guys, and they're hanging in there despite injuries. Coming at number 3, this is where my list kind of shifts around a little bit more because these next 2 teams are teams that I kind of expect to be up there already. Coming at number 3, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. They won 17 straight games when Jalen Hurts had started and finished a season. I mean, that's impressive. I got to be honest with one. They're 19-1 in the last 20 games. They're still on the verge to win the Super Bowl. They are, go back and become 2-time champions. They're still one of my favorites in the league. And despite the Packers losing last week, the Packers are still right up there in the conversation. So I like the Eagles. I love the Jalen Hurts, and I feel like they're still the more well put together. They were able to hold off and beat the Rams. It has some great, we talked about this earlier this week, some all-around stoppage, even on special teams to help this team hold on to a victory and be 3-0. So the Eagles are number 3. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills. Uh, Look, interesting note. Rest of the AFC East is 1-8 combined so far. So, this doesn't. They don't have a tough schedule. I was actually just looking at it. I mean, what you have for the Bills, looking at last year's schedule, but for the Bills, you got Miami. You beat Baltimore, the Jets, and Miami. You got the Saints coming up, which should be an easy win. Another easy win in New England. At Atlanta before a bye, Carolina, Miami, Houston. I mean, their tough schedule, if at all, doesn't come until midst of the season, and that's only give and take. I think their true toughness is going to either come November 2nd with Kansas City, or it's going to come with December 28th against Philadelphia. Maybe Tampa Bay along in the middle of that schedule. But this should be, at the end of this is hopefully one of the easiest schedules they can win. I'd like to also confirm at this time that the Reds did win. So now we are waiting off the outcome of the Mets and the Cubs later on this afternoon, as well as the Dodgers and D-backs, which I think they're playing right now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Dodgers are up 4-0. So right now we're considered half a game back of the wild card. Mets lose, we would have that third wild card heading into the weekend. If the Diamondbacks lose, which we hope they do, they are now then a game and a half back, awaiting the Mets decision. They could be even 2 games back if they end up losing. So that's what we're crossing our fingers with here, looking into that. But continuing, coming into number 1, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. And boy, let me tell you this. I'm not necessarily all in on the Chargers, but you can't deny just the impeccable talent that they have among Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Jim Harbaugh never fails. He always, it's fun to watch. They seem like they're just seamlessly ongoing. It's a smooth machine. Reminds me a lot like the Eagles right now, and they still have a lot to prove. Right now, they're becoming a fan favorite in the AFC, not just in the West, but in the entire division. And I would be argued to oppose, starting the season out 3-0, beating all of your division already, so you have that upper advantage. I would be in the admission to say that the Chargers have a case to head into the Super Bowl this year. All right, let's dive into our division heading into week number 4. We kick things off against the Vikings and the Steelers. This is game 1 of a 7-game series in international territory. This is taking place in Dublin, Ireland on Sunday at 9:30 in the morning kickoff. They're both 2-1 on the year. And my notes on this, the Vikings, man, like I said, they have the momentum heading into this game. They just got done annihilating the Cincinnati Bengals 48-10 last Sunday. Carry that momentum into not only a road game, but into a international game, which is always a tough, regardless if you're home or you're away. To put it this way, I think I said this earlier this week. The Vikings they have 2 road games, and both of them are international territory, so they're neutral zone locations. I feel like you pick up that momentum with Carson Wentz, and you carry that on. Here's the other thing with the Vikings. Here's what I like about the situation when it comes down to the Vikings. Carson Wentz, well-established quarterback, been a starter before, been in some pretty big games. He fits the scheme. He understands the dynamic of this team, and this is what every team wants as a backup quarterback, right? A polished veteran that maybe doesn't have what it takes that can still go a long time as a backup, and can hold his own when replacing the starter, but also focuses and values the dynamic of what that team brings in. Carson Wentz fits that bill, in my opinion. And I like this matchup. And when JJ McCarthy, this is where I could say about JJ McCarthy now, right? Don't rush coming back. It's okay. We're all in good hands. And I would say, when he does come back, the question is going to be, what what do we do, or not what do we do, but is who do we go with, in my opinion. That is going to be my question. I don't want to do that. So I was just checking something and verifying some information on my phone. But it's not about uh but you're in good hands, and that's what I like about it. Steelers need to establish the run. Look, I like what Aaron Rodgers is doing. I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I believe in what the Steelers are trying to do to get back to a postseason, have this one final send-off run for Aaron Rodgers as he may possibly retire. So I do enjoy what we're seeing here. But we need, in order for the Steelers to continue, they need to establish the run. All right, but we have a 1 o'clock game. This is what's fun. We can watch all four of these games this week, uh, because the 1 o'clock is the Browns and the Lions. We were going off of a Browns very top, probably top number one last week in defense. Looking maybe to repeat that against the Lions. Lions are risk takers. Okay, we saw that back on Monday night. They picked up a victory, and so this is going to be called for an interesting game. Browns, I don't think are going to be into it each and every week, but when they're into it, they're going to make things exciting. At 425, I think this is the game of the week, the Steelers and the Chiefs. What's great about this is that both teams are coming off to a slow start. Both 1-2, both losing to a couple really good teams. The Eagles and the Chargers beat the Chiefs, and the Lions and the Bills beat the Ravens. So they do have something to fight for. So I think this matchup here is coming off of, okay, we win, we have that momentum. We're fine. We have nothing to worry about. I think we'll finally level out. If we lose, if neither team lose, I think we need to start looking at, all right, what's going to happen to our team? Do we need to make any changes? And I think it would even salt the wound here for the Chiefs a little bit more, because it'll be 0-4 in the season compared to what the Chargers may be. Last but not least, we have the Monday night game, the second game of the doubleheader Monday night, Bengals and Broncos. Listen, Broncos, they will love nothing more. They haven't won a game this year. They want to go home. They have the elevation on their side. There's a home field advantage. Plus, it's prime time. They want to win a game. The Bengals, listen, it's all eyes on Jake Browning. Okay. I'm very optimistic about who to select in this game, but one thing is certain. We're watching how Jake Browning and this offense bounces back. And they almost have to have a winning game. Because if come Tuesday, if the Bengals lose this game and the offense and Jake Browning does not have a better performance, I think if you're the coaching staff, if you're front office, you got to honestly think about possibly signing a free agent. I don't know what a Jameis Winston can do for this team, but it's better than a Jake Browning. And I'm not saying that Jake Browning is a bad quarterback. I think he's a great quarterback, but he's a great backup quarterback. And in my opinion, we need a little bit better than a backup quarterback, especially for this longevity. If he goes in and he wins Monday, then all right, let's reevaluate. But if he loses Monday, and especially loses again in fashionable way that he did last week, then I'm a bit concerned. And especially with an upcoming tough schedule with the Lions and the Packers on the way, don't forget the Steelers follow right behind that. And then don't forget that middle back end where you have the Ravens twice and then the the Chiefs, or the Ravens and the Bills. Sorry, you have the Bills back in there. That's going to be tough to come across. So I think all eyes are on Jake Browning. All eyes are going to be on this team. winning. I think it's a must win, or I think we have to reconsider and reevaluate our quarterback position. Alrighty, with that being said, let's get down to our final segment of our program, and that is picking our selections of who we think is going to win here in week 4. I was looking at the week 4 schedule and a few games that I really took attention to that I think is just lined up. I mean, I love the international series. It gets you the chance to watch some football early on, gives you an opportunity to check out the Vikings, the Steelers, ease into your morning. I know out there on the West Coast, you get it at 6:30 in the morning. But the first matchup I was going to look at is the 1 o'clock matchup between the Eagles and Buccaneers. And this matchup here is going to be fun. Both teams are 3-0. This will be the true test for Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. They may not win, but they get a chance to see where they're at here as a solid team. And one team is going to remain undefeated, as one team is going to also pick up a loss. The other game I was also looking into kind of goes in the opposite direction, but has positive outcome in it. That's the 425 Ravens and Chiefs. They're both 1-2, but one of them, a win is going to tell one of them, hey, we're fine. We're okay. We're going to be okay. And, we're going to get back on track. The other team, you may want to start questioning what type of moves you make here towards the trade deadline. Then you have the Packers and the Cowboys. And then obviously we're talking about our Bengals and the Broncos Monday Night Football. But coming up tonight, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams are 2-1. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. Home field advantage, primetime game. I feel like they've shown a little bit more. But this one could be up in the air. We have the international game, Dublin, Ireland, Vikings and Seahawks. I think the momentum with the Vikings carry over. I think that the Steelers are going to maybe struggle offensively. And I think the Vikings will pick up a victory. They both come in 2-1. Carolina Panthers and the New England Patriots are 1-2. I like the New England Patriots. This is a game where I think that the Patriots will improve on. And it's about these little improvements in the schedule for the Patriots to walk away from. The game that I think took interest here because of last week's performance, 1 o'clock, Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions. If you think about this, the Browns were just one field goal away back in week 1 to be 2-1. They take on the Lions, but the Lions really showed a lot of aggressiveness. Yes, they're still trying to prove that the loss against the Packers week 1 was not supposed to happen. I got the Lions going to be in this one. I don't know if the Browns are good enough to compete week in and week out. They have a good defense, but I just don't know Joe Flacco. Or even if you throw in a younger guy, I don't know how they will go up against a Jared Goff or the Lions defense. You got the Los Angeles Chargers over at MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Giants. The Chargers are undefeated, taking on the winless Giants. I think one of the questions, and listen, New York will let you hear about it when they don't like you. Russell Wilson is not the solution for New York. The Giants are trying to milk every last ounce of Russell Wilson, and guess what? There's nothing there left to be milked out of him. The question is when will they pull the plug on him, and how soon? I think another loss on the resume doesn't sign up for a trade possibility. You honestly would have to consider just releasing him. I think the Chargers will win and go 4-0. Saints over in Buffalo to take on the Bills. A 0-3 Saints take on a 3-0 Bills. Same results. I think the Bills will win. They will be 4-0. We talked about the Eagles and the Buccaneers, one of my matchups to watch here this week. They're both 3-0. We talked about a true test for the Buccaneers, but I think that the Eagles are more well-rounded fit. If they didn't prove to you last week that they are serious and that they are just that good, especially all around, especially on their special teams, then I don't know what you guys have been watching in the NFL. I think the Eagles will win over the Buccaneers. But hey, I'm going to tell you this. If the Buccaneers can beat the Eagles, I think that would make a very, very strong case for Baker Mayfield as being, if you don't take them serious now, you got to take them serious then. This matchup was up in the air, in my belief. Both teams coming in 0-3. The Tennessee Titans taking on the Houston Texans. I went with the home field advantage. I don't know about C.J. Stroud over Cam Ward, but I'm choosing the Titans over the Texans. The Washington Commanders take on the Atlanta Falcons. Commanders are 2-1. The Falcons are 1-2. I have the Commanders pulling away with the victory. This is an interesting matchup, in my opinion. The undefeated Colts taking on the 2-1 Rams. Rams made some mistakes last week that ended up costing them the game. A couple of missed field goals led them to their first loss of the year. It's how they bounce back from that. And my thing is with the Rams is that Sean McVay, I feel like he tries to be a Dan Campbell at times. I feel like he tries to pull some risk at times that may or may not affect how this team performs. The Colts, on the other hand, if they're going to win, it's going to be Daniel Jones in that offense. They're just going to come in, they're going to handle the business, and leave. The Colts will play a little bit more safe, in my opinion. Therefore, I have the Rams winning. It's going to come down to in my honest thoughts, that it's going to come down to mistakes. How many mistakes will the Rams make? In the afternoon games, we continue with the Jaguars, who are 2-1, taking on the 3-0 49ers. I have the 49ers winning this game. They're at home. My question heading into this game and further, we know the injuries piled up. I feel like that's only going to last so long before they start tumbling apart. It may look good early on in the season, but as we get deeper and the weather starts getting colder, I can see a change in the wind if the 49ers do not remain healthy. What I believe the game of the week would be is the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. As we've talked plenty about, both teams are 1-2, off to a slow start. One of them wins, it kind of secure and reassures their season, as if the opponent who loses would probably have to question any changes being made. You know, Derrick Henry was a part of the loss in the Ravens last week. I don't think a good player like Derrick Henry will have too many bad games, especially not in a row. They have too much talent offensively and defensively, to be honest. They're very aggressive to let this one bypass among the Chiefs, who struggle offensively and only have their defense to go off of. I have the Ravens winning this one. The Chicago Bears, surprisingly, picked up their first win last week against the Cowboys. To be honest, it's fundamental football. And the sooner the Bears could realize how simple football can be played, I don't know if they're going to win the division, but they can start going back to playing average football and having an average record. Until then, they're going to get crumbled. But maybe last week's win kind of carries over. They take on the Raiders. They take on the Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. I have the Bears coming away with that victory on Sunday. Sunday Night Football, the Packers take on the Cowboys. I got the Packers winning. I know they have a very strong defense. They lost by 3 points. I don't think they're going to give up that much. I don't think much of the Cowboys, to be honest. They're 1-2. So I got the Packers winning this one. We are treated to 2 Monday Night Football games. The first one at 7:15, the Jets and the Dolphins in the AFC East. Both are 0-3. One of them's going to win, obviously. I got the Dolphins picking up this victory. And we talked about this one in depth, the 8:15 Bengals and Broncos. I tell you this, the Broncos need a victory if they don't want to steer away from the AFC West that the Chargers are slowly running away with. The Bengals were focusing on Jake Browning. We know how desperate and how much Joe Burrow comes. But what I don't need Joe Burrow to do is to make a speedy recovery to come back when he's not ready to come back yet. And my fear is that every week that we lose, we inch close Joe Burrow making a irrational decision to come back sooner. Now, we take a look at Joe Burrow and the schedule, and we understand that there's the final 3 games. If he could come back according to plan, then they should be wins in our opinion. Which means if we consider the last 3 games with Joe Burrow coming back as wins, as according to plan, that will give us a 5-win record, which means between now and then we got to find a way to at least win another 4 to 5 games. Is that with Jake Browning? Or, like I said, if we lose this week, I strongly believe we would have to consider finding another quarterback to fill in. It's not going to be Desmond Ridder, maybe another free agent. Jameis Winston's up on the grabs. I think I make that call. And I would be very disappointed if the Bengals don't decide to go a route before the trade deadline to find a new quarterback, especially during the tough season ahead of us. I think it's only fair. We got to stay relevant. We only got to find 4 wins. We've got a tough schedule ahead of us. That is all the time we have. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you guys want to comment, share your opinions about week 4 matchups, who's going to make it to the playoffs next Tuesday, please find our YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Let the comments pour down below. You may find yourself on our channel here at some point. Until that, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.